Hey, this is Dr. Renfrow. Let's talk about damage in the spine, how it accumulates over time, affects the nerve system, causes health conditions and symptoms. That we have multiple opportunities throughout our life to experience some sort of accident or injury that the bumps and bruises will heal, but the damage to the spine will remain unless the damage to the spine is addressed specifically. And then that damage will continue to get worse over time in the form of degeneration, continue to cause more neurological interruption that's going to decrease the function and efficiency of the body and doing what the body does, which is maintain itself, heal itself, function properly. So accidents and injuries as early as childhood are going to cause spinal damage that will affect this individual later on in life. So falling off of bikes, playing sports. A lot of people think that football is the probably the most damaging sport, but what they found out was that soccer was having a incredibly damaging effects on the spine, and that's why they stopped letting kids hit the soccer ball with their head or head the soccer ball because it was causing a lot of problems. Practical jokes, things like that, falls and tumbles. If you're like me, you hit your head on everything from the time you were born until, well, I still hit my head on everything. Um, Probably one of the most damaging or events that introduces the possibility for damage to the spine is the birth process. It's not that the doctors mean to do this, it's just overlooked. And you have to think about it. So the average baby is about 7 pounds. The average obstetrician or baby delivery doctor is going to be around 170 pounds. And then whether the forceps or a vacuum or a hand assisted delivery or even a C-section is performed, somewhere around 70 to 90 pounds of force on average is going to be exerted into that baby's spine, getting them out of the birth canal. Um, and so you think about this baby who doesn't have the muscle strength to even hold its own head up, can't possibly protect its spine in this high intensity situation. And so a lot of times that will be the initial damage to the spine that will continue to get worse over time. Again, it's not that the doctors mean to do this, it's just overlooked because in the mainstream healthcare world, um, treatment and um, attention requires symptoms of some sort. They're not preventatively looking at the alignment of the spine and how it relates to the nerve system. Throughout adult life, most people continue to have accidents and injuries that affect the health of their spine. It'll affect the soft tissues that hold the spine together, ligaments, discs, cause the spine to further misalign, cause more damage that will continue to snowball in the form of degeneration, get worse, um, causing more damage to the nerve system, less normal function of the body, more symptoms, more health conditions, more problems in time. So there's no end to the amount of adult injuries that can affect us. Even car accidents are going to have a major effect on the spine. After the bumps and the bruises and the pain goes away, the damage is still present in the spine and it will continue to get worse over time unless it's addressed. Even low speed impacts can have um, drastic effects on the alignment of the spine, the soft tissues that hold the spine together, and the nerve system. And it's not going to be that the symptoms are going to pop up immediately. You know, the pain from a car accident will, usually go away in time. Um, the bumps and the bruises will heal, but it's the damage in the spine that the body can't correct. And so it's going to continue to affect this individual's health and it's going to affect it years down the line. So the effects are delayed, it's not immediate. I can't tell you how many people that we have who have a car accident in their history and we, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and we look at the x-rays and there's 10, 15, 20 years worth of damage that lines up with that car accident. They say, no, it couldn't have possibly been the car accident because I went to the hospital, they took an x-ray, they gave me some medication, and they said I was fine. They're just not looking for the micro trauma that we're looking for in an office such as ours. Millimeters and degrees, misalignment, damage of the soft tissues affecting the alignment of the spine and the health of the spine over long periods of time, and the health of the nerve system as a result of the spine. So what else affects the nerve system? Well, if the first one was trauma, so we call that trauma, any accidents, injuries throughout life, then the second one is going to be toxins. So toxins affect the nerve system. So we take my favorite food here, which is, of course, Cheetos. And if you look at the ingredients in the Cheetos, um, there's only one thing that I recognize, which I think is corn. And then the rest of it is going to be added food coloring and preservatives and chemicals basically to make this bag of Cheetos suitable to sit in a snack machine for 10 years without expiring. So it's just not food. You might have seen the pictures online of the McDonald's burger that they unwrapped and it sat for 15 years and it looked the same 15 years later as it did the day that it was unwrapped. That's not food. That's not breaking down. That's not natural unless you add chemicals to the food. Anything that's been processed, preserved, anything along those lines is not going to be natural. It's going to be full of toxins, and that's going to present another interference in the nerve system. In other words, your body has to work through all this stuff. It has to metabolize all these toxins that you put into it, and it does it at a high cost. So the closer your food is to the most natural form, the closer your food is to the way that God made it and that it showed up, the better it is for you. So if you take something like raw fruits and vegetables, that's going to be the healthiest thing that you can possibly put into your body. And in the raw form, especially, it's going to have bioactive compounds in it that would be minimized or reduced in the cooking process. And some of those compounds are responsible for actually flushing toxins out of the body. So you might have heard about free radicals. Well, that's basically toxins that build up in the body, and that the level of toxins will increase over time. The less the body can function normally, the less that it can metabolize those toxins. So you take things like raw fruits and vegetables, and they have antioxidants basically, and those antioxidants counteract the toxins, allow the body to actually begin to flush toxins and metabolize these compounds that are really a huge burden on the body. The same thing is found in any chemical that you put into the body that it does not normally belong there, would not naturally occur there. It's going to tend to accumulate over time as the body is not able to metabolize it properly. And that can definitely cause a decrease in the function of the nervous system and contribute to the development of symptoms and health conditions. You think about things like medications, and we're certainly not anti-medication, but the principle of a medication is not that it addresses anything specific. Any effect that a medication creates in the body is going to be exerted on the entire body. So if you take something for your stomach, it's not just ending up in the cells in the stomach, it's ending up in every cell in your body. And that's why we get side effects, because that's going to have unintended effects on other parts of the body. So the body naturally is able to flush toxins to a certain degree. We certainly don't want to burden the body with more than it can handle. And we want a high functioning nerve system so that it can handle those things better. We also want to eliminate them from our diet if at all possible. Everything in moderation is always a good rule of thumb. And then so we've got trauma and toxins. And then the third major thing that's going to affect the health of the nerve system and the health of the spine and the health of the body overall is stress. And so there's an emotional component of your health. And you might have seen people who go through intense emotional trauma in their life, whether it's a divorce or the death of a loved one. And people develop health conditions in the wake of these things in their lives. Another good example would be a child who's experienced some sort of abuse. That's going to be basically recorded on their nerve system. And if their body's not functioning properly, if their nerve system is not functioning at a high level, they're going to tend to replay this over and over. Same thing with PTSD. You take a young man and you send him overseas and he sees his best friend blown up in a bomb, that's going to basically be played over and over through the nerve system. The nerve system's not functioning optimally, not going to be able to process that. The more stress that we're under, the more it affects our health. The concept of a placebo illustrates this very well, and we've talked a lot about placebo effect in the research literature. That's basically when they give one person a sugar pill and they give the other person the medication that they're trying to test, and they both get the same result. They both get better. Well, what does a placebo add to the body? It doesn't add anything to the body. It takes away something from the body. It takes away the fear and the emotional stress that the condition or the symptom is having. And so that can create a beneficial effect on the body, where the removal of that emotional stress or that psychological fear actually allows the body to heal better. So stress has a major impact on our lives. In this day and time, you can see that in people in the mainstream. The more that you watch the news, the more stressed out you are, the more likely you are to be sick. So it's not just one thing or another thing, it's a cumulative effects. And then there's three primary things that are going to affect the health of the nerve system and the spine. It's going to be trauma, toxins, and then emotional health or emotional stress. So you take a life full of those, and it's going to accumulate over time. Damage to the nerve system interrupts the normal function of the nerve system and interrupts the health of the body. You might remember Christopher Reeve. Well, he broke his neck and he lost the function of the organs. Basically, from his neck down, he had to be connected to machines for the rest of his life for his body to function somewhat normally. And then what did he die from? He didn't die because of the broken neck. He died because his immune system wasn't functioning properly because of the damage to the nerve system. And I believe if you looked at his death certificate, that pneumonia was listed as the cause of death. So damage to the nerve system affects everything else in the body because of the vast influence of the nerve system on the individual's health. Every tissue, every organ, everything in the body is connected back to the brain by a vast network of nerves known as the nerve system. So any damage to the nerve system is going to cause an interruption in function and health over time. The most common damage to the nerve system is going to be through spinal damage. So the spinal damage that we address in the office, known as vertebral subluxation. So this is basically one or more unhealthy joints in the spine that are causing imbalance throughout the body and the nerve system and affecting the efficiency and the amount to which the body can function normal and heal itself as it was designed to do. Everybody who is subluxated, and statistically speaking, this is a very high percentage of the population, but everybody who has a subluxation in the spine, not everybody's going to have pain. And so that's one of the great deceptions of the chiropractic, is that in the mainstream, it's known for pain, and people think, well, I have to have pain to go to a chiropractor. It's really not about pain. Not everybody who has damage in the spine has pain. In fact, most people who have damage in the spine do not have pain. Most people will have some sort of tenderness, and I guarantee you, anybody who's subluxated, you can find a tender spot in the spine, and it's going to relate to most of the time where there's some damage in the spine. Everybody will have inflammation or swelling related to the affected segments in the spine and the damaged areas. And inflammation is basically the body trying to heal itself, but it can't completely do so. And so when you have damaged segments in the spine, the body can try to heal it, but it can't heal the alignment. It can't correct the alignment of those segments. It can't right the joint that's misaligned to allow the inflammation process to turn into a healing process. There's going to be swelling with that inflammation. A lot of times that's where pain will come from, is from inflammation and swelling. And that's why one of the recommendations that we make very commonly for somebody who's in an acute situation is to use ice, because that will decrease the inflammation, the swelling in the tissues, and make them more comfortable until we can get in and properly address the damage in the spine that's causing the problem. There's going to be tight muscles because there's a muscular imbalance. And so if you look here in the body, anytime there's even just one joint in the spine that's affected by subluxation, or that is subluxated, it's going to throw the entire spine and the entire body into a compensatory situation where you'll have curvatures that develop in the spine where it should be straight when we're looking at it front to back like this. And then there's going to be a compensation or a compensatory action of the shoulders. A lot of times you'll get one shoulder that's slightly higher than the other shoulder. Sometimes it'll be very little and hard to tell. Sometimes it'll be more drastic in somebody who's got more damage in the spine. It's set in a little bit more. There'll be compensation of the hips. So we'll have unleveling of the hips where they're not level. And then for most people, there will be a short leg check on one side. And it's not that there's one leg that's shorter than the other leg. It's that an entire side of the body or muscle groups are tighter than the other side because of the imbalance in the spine. So that definitely predisposes people to stress patterns on certain joints, why certain joints may wear out faster than the other side. Why certain conditions are one-sided is because there's a compensatory action of the spine in response to even just one unhealthy joint in the spine that's affected by this condition, subluxation. Of course, there's going to be locked joints. So whatever subluxated joint, whichever joint it is, it's going to be locked. So it's not moving normally. So there's reduced motion of that joint. And then the joints around it will generally respond by being too mobile or less mobile. And then any joint that's not moving normally is going to degenerate over time. There's going to be the person's going to be able to move less and less normally as their spine accrues damage and as it degenerates. And then, of course, there's going to be abnormal posture. And so just like this diagram here, that's pretty much, it may be different in terms of which leg is short or which hip is high or which shoulder is high or which way the head tilts. But there will always be a compensatory postural distortion. In other words, the posture ain't right. It's not normal. It's not the way it should be. And then there's going to be abnormal heat patterns in the body. So this is one reason why we use thermal diagnostic measures in the office, is because the abnormal heat patterns are one of the most accurate things that we can objectively measure to indicate the problem and the improvement also in the spine and in the nerve system. And abnormal heat comes through a variety of mechanisms. Of course, when you have damage in the spine, when there's more inflammation, there's going to be more heat at those levels. If there's neurological interruption, in other words, if you put pressure on a nerve, a lot of times that's going to cause a rise in heat at that level. So there's multiple factors in the heat, but the heat's usually going to correspond to levels of damage and neurological interference. We want the heat profile of the body to be balanced left and right. Many times it's unbalanced. That can indicate the problem in the spine and the nerve system. So I think I've said enough for right now. I really appreciate your time and hope that you have a great evening. Bye-bye.